Good afternoon, boys and girls. How is everyone doing today? Happy Friday, happy spring. Today we are on day 5 of our book, Wonder by R.J. Palacio. This was a New York Times bestseller. So we will pick up where we left off. The last chapter we read was a little emotional for me, how the story ended. We know Augie, our main character, had finished his first day of school, and it was a tough one for him. I don't know if you know. Can you tell where I am, what my background is? All right, let us begin. This chapter is called Wake Me Up When September Ends. The rest of September was hard. I wasn't used to getting up so early in the morning. I wasn't used to this whole notion of homework. And I got my first quiz at the end of the month. I never got quizzes when Mom homeschooled me. I also didn't like how I had no free time anymore. Before, I was able to play whenever I wanted to, but now it felt like I always had stuff to do for school. And being at school was awful in the beginning. Every new class I had was like a new chance for kids to not stare at me. They would sneak peeks at me from behind their notebooks or when they thought I wasn't looking. They would take the longest way around me to avoid bumping into me in any way, like I had some germ they could catch, like my face was contagious. In the hallways, which were always crowded, my face would always surprise some unsuspecting kid who maybe hadn't heard about me. The kid would make the sound you make when you hold your breath before you go underwater, like that sound. This happened maybe 4 or 5 times a day for the first few weeks. On the stairs, in the front of the lockers, in the library. 500 kids in a school. Eventually, every one of them was going to see my face at some time. And I knew after the first couple of days that word had gotten around about me, because every once in a while I'd catch a kid elbowing his friends as they passed me, or talking behind their hands as I walked by them. I can only imagine what they were saying about me. Actually, I prefer not to even try to imagine it. I'm not saying they were doing any of these things in a mean way. By the way, not once did any kid laugh or make noises or do anything like that. They were just being normal, dumb kids. I know that. I kind of wanted to tell them that, like, it's okay, I know I'm weird looking, take a look, I don't bite. Hey, the truth is, if a Wookiee started going to the school all of a sudden, I'd be curious and I'd probably stare a bit. And if I was walking with Jack or Summer, I'd probably whisper to them, hey, there's the Wookiee. And if the Wookiee caught me saying that, he'd know I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just pointing out the fact that he's a Wookiee. It took about 1 week for the kids in my class to get used to my face. These were the kids I'd see every day at all my classes. It took about 2 weeks for the rest of the kids in my grade to get used to my face. These were the kids I'd see in the cafeteria, yard time, PE, music library, and computer class. It took about a month for the rest of the kids in the entire school to get used to it. These were the kids in all the other grades. They were big kids, some of them. Some of them had crazy haircuts, some of them had earrings in their noses, and some of them had pimples. None of them looked like me. Jack Will. I hung out with Jack in homeroom. English, history, computer, music, and science, which were all the classes we had together. The teacher assigned seats in every class, and I ended up sitting next to Jack in every single class. So I figured either the teachers were told to put me and Jack together, or it was totally. See, grown-ups make mistakes too, totally. That's not a word. It was a totally incredible coincidence. I walked to class with Jack too. I know he noticed kids staring at me, but he pretended not to notice. One time, though, on our way to history, this huge 8th grader who was zooming down the stairs 2 steps at a time accidentally bumped into us at the bottom of the stairs and knocked me down. As the guy helped me stand, he got a look at my face, and without even meaning to say, he just said, whoa. Then he patted me on the shoulder like he was dusting me off and took off after his friend. For some reason, me and Jack started cracking up. That guy made the funniest face, said Jack as we sat down at our desks. I know, right? I said. He was like, whoa. I swear, I think he wet his pants. We were laughing so hard that the teacher, Mr. Roche, had to ask us to settle down. Later, after we finished reading about ancient Sumerians and how they built sundials, Jack whispered, Do you ever want to beat those kids up? I shrugged. I guess. I don't know. I'd want to. I think you should get a secret squirt gun or something and attach it to your eye somehow, and every time someone stares at you, you squirt them in the face. With some green slime or something, I answered. No. With slug juice mixed with dog pee. Yeah, I said, completely agreeing. Guys, said Mr. Roche from across the room, people are still reading. We nodded and looked down at our books, and then Jack whispered, Are you always going to look this way, August? I mean, can you get plastic surgery or something? I smiled and pointed to my face. Hello, this is after plastic surgery. Jack clapped his hand over his forehead and started laughing hysterically. Dude, you should sue your doctor, he answered between giggles. This time, the two of us were laughing so much we couldn't stop. Even Mr. Roche came over and made us both switch chairs with the kids next to us. Mr. Brown's October precept. Mr. Brown's precept for October was, Your deeds are your monuments. He told us that this was written on the tombstone of some Egyptian guy that died thousands of years ago. Since we were just about to start studying ancient Egypt and history, Mr. Brown thought this would be a good choice. Our homework assignment was to write a paragraph about what we thought the precept meant or how we felt about it. This is what I wrote. The precept means that we should be remembered for the things we do. The things we do are the most important things of all. They are important than what we say or what we look like. The things we do outlast our mortality. The things we do are like monuments that people build to honor heroes after they die. They're like pyramids that the Egyptians built to honor the pharaohs, only instead, being made out of stone, they're made out of memories people have of you. That's why your deeds are like your monuments, built with memories instead of stone. Apples. My birthday is October 10th. I like my birthday, 10/10. It would have been great if I'd been born exactly 10/10 at night or in the morning, but I wasn't. I lost my spot. Instead, I was born just after midnight, but I still think my birthday is cool. I usually have a little party at home, but this year I asked Mom if I could have a big bowling party. Mom was surprised but happy. She asked me who I wanted to take from my class, and I said everyone in my homeroom plus Summer. Well, that's a lot of kids, Augie, said Mom. I have to invite everyone because I don't want anyone to get their feelings hurt if they find out other people are invited and they aren't, okay? It's really nice. Okay, Mom agreed. You even want to invite the what's the deal kid? Yeah, you can invite Julian, I answered. Geez, Mom, you should forget about that already. I know, you're right. A couple of weeks later, I asked Mom who was coming to my party, and she said Jack, Will, Summer, Reed Kingsley, both Maxes, and a couple other kids that said they were going to try to be there. Like who? Charlotte's mom said Charlotte had a dance recital earlier in the day, but she was going to try to come to your party if it allowed. And Tristan's mom said he might come after his soccer game. So that's it? I said. That's like 5 people. That's more than 5 plans already, Mom answered. We were in the kitchen and she was cutting one of the apples we had just gotten at the farmer's market in teensy-weensy bites so I could eat it. What kind of plans? I asked. I don't know, Augie. We sent out the e-bites kind of late. Like, what did they tell you, though? What reasons did they give you? Everyone gave different reasons, Augie. She sounded a bit impatient. Really, sweetie, it shouldn't matter what their reasons were. People had plans and that's all. What did Julian give as his reason? I asked. You know, said Mom. His mom was the only person who didn't RSVP at all. And she looked at me. I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I laughed because I thought she was making a joke, but then I realized she wasn't. What does that mean? I asked. Never mind, now go wash your hands so you can eat. My birthday party turned out to be much smaller than I thought it would be, but it was still great. Jack, Summer, Reed, Tristan, and both Maxes came from school, and Christopher came too. All the way from Bridgeport with his parents. And Uncle Ben came, and Aunt Kate and Uncle Poe drove in from Boston, though Tata and Papa were in Florida for the winter. It was fun because all the grown-ups ended up bowling in the lane next to ours, so it really felt like there were a lot of people there to celebrate my birthday. Halloween. At lunch the next day, Summer asked me what I was going to be for Halloween. Of course, I'd been thinking about it since last Halloween, so I knew right away. Boba Fett. You know, you can wear a costume to school on Halloween, right? No way. Really? So long as it's politically correct. What, like no guns and stuff? Exactly. Well, what about blasters? I think blasters are like guns, Augie. Oh man, I said, shaking my head. Boba Fett has a blaster. At least we don't have to come like a character in a book anymore. In the lower school, that's what you had to do. Last year, I was the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz. But that's a movie, not a book. Hello, Summer answered. It was a book first. One of my favorite books in the world, actually. My dad used to read it to me every night in the first grade. When Summer talks, especially when she's excited about something, her eyes squint like she's looking right at the sun. I hardly ever see Summer during the day since the only class we have together is English. But ever since that first lunch at school, we've sat at the summer table together every day, just the two of us. So what are you going to be? I asked her. I don't know yet. I know what I really want to go as, but I think it might be too dorky, you know. Savannah's group isn't even wearing costumes this year. They think they're too old for Halloween. What? That's just dumb. I know, right? I thought you just didn't care what those girls think. She shrugged and took a long drink of her milk. So what's dorky? What dorky thing do you want to dress up as? I asked, smiling. Promise not to laugh? She raised her eyebrows and her shoulders embarrassed. A unicorn? I smiled and looked down at my sandwich. Hey, you promised not to laugh, she laughed. Okay, I said, but you're right, that is too dorky. I know, she said, but I have it all planned out. I'd make the hat out of paper mache and paint the horn gold and make the mane gold too. It would be so awesome. Okay, I shrugged, then you should do it. Who cares what other people think, right? Maybe what I'll do is just wear it for the Halloween parade, for school. She said, wait, I'm sorry. For the Halloween parade, she said, snapping her fingers, and I'll just be like a goth girl for school. Yeah, that's it. That's what I'll do. Sounds like a plan, I nodded. Thanks, Augie, she giggled. You know, that's what I like best about you. I feel like I can tell you anything. Yeah, I answered, nodding. I gave her a thumbs-up sign. Cool beans. School pictures. I don't think anyone will be shocked to learn I don't want to have my school picture taken on October 22nd. No way. No thank you. I stopped letting anyone take pictures of me a while ago. I guess you could call it a phobia. No, actually, it's not a phobia. It's an aversion, which is a word I just learned in Mr. Brown's class. I have an aversion to having my picture taken. There, I used it in a sentence. I thought Mom would try to get me to drop my aversion to having my picture taken from school, but she didn't. Unfortunately, while I managed to avoid having the portrait taken, I was distracted again, boys and girls. Unfortunately, while I managed to avoid having the portrait taken, I couldn't get out of being part of the class picture. Ugh. The photographer looked like he just sucked on a lemon when he saw me. I'm sure he thought I ruined the picture. I was one of the ones in the front sitting down. I didn't smile, not that anyone can tell if I had. The cheese touch. I noticed not too long ago that even though people were used to me, no one would actually touch me. I didn't realize this at first because it's not like kids go around touching each other that much in middle school anyway. But last Thursday in dance class, which is like my least favorite class, Mrs. Adanabi, the teacher, tried to make Jimena Chin be my dance partner. Now, I've never actually seen someone have a panic attack before, but I have heard about it, and I'm pretty sure Jimena had a panic attack at that second. She got really nervous and turned pale and literally broke into a sweat within a minute, and then she came up with some lame excuse about really having to go to the bathroom. Anyway, Mrs. Adanabi let her off the hook because she ended up not making anyone dance together. Then yesterday in my science elective, we were doing this cool mystery powder investigation where we had to classify a substance as an acid or a base. Everyone had to heat this mystery powder on a heating plate and make observations, so we were all huddled around the powders with our notebooks. Now, there were 8 kids in this elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side. Miss Schmidt just said hi. Hi, Miss Schmidt. So we were all huddled around the powder with our notebooks. Now, there are 8 kids in the elective, and 7 of them were squished together on one side of the plate, while one of them, me, had loads of room on the other side. So, of course, I noticed this, but I was hoping Miss Rubin wouldn't notice this, because I didn't want her to say something. But, of course, she did notice this, and, of course, she said something. Guys, there's plenty of room on that side. Tristan and Nino, go over there, she said. So Tristan and Nino scooted over to my side. Tristan and Nino had always been okay nice to me. I wanted to go on record as saying that. Not super nice, like they go out of their way to hang out with me, but okay nice, like they say hello to me and talk to me like normal. And they didn't even make a face when Miss Rubin told them to come on my side, which a lot of kids do when they think I'm not looking. Anyway, everything was going fine until Tristan's mystery powder started melting. He moved his foil off the plate just as my powder began to melt too, which is why I went to move mine off the plate. And then my hand accidentally bumped his hand for a fraction of a second. Tristan jerked his hand away so fast he dropped his foil on the floor while also knocking everyone else's foil off the heating pad. "Tristan!" yelled Miss Rubin, but Tristan didn't even care about the spilled powder on the floor or that he ruined the experiment. What he was most concerned about was getting to the lab sink to wash his hands as fast as possible. That's when I knew for sure that there was this thing about touching me at Beaker Prep. I think it's like the cheese touch in A Diary of a Wimpy Kid. The kids in the story were afraid they'd catch the cootie if they touched the old moldy cheese on the basketball court. At Beaker Prep, I'm the old moldy cheese. Costumes. For me, Halloween is the best holiday in the world. It even beats Christmas. I get to dress up in a costume. I get to wear a mask, and I get to go around like every other kid with a mask, and nobody thinks I look weird. Nobody takes a second look. Nobody notices me. Nobody knows me. I wish every day could be Halloween. We could all wear masks all the time. Then we could walk around and get to know each other before we got to see what we looked like under the masks. When I was little, I used to wear an astronaut helmet everywhere I went. To the playground, to the supermarket, to pick up Via from school. Even in the middle of summer, though it was hot on my face and I would sweat, I think I wore it for a couple of years. But I had to stop wearing it when I had my eye surgery. I was about 7, I think. And then we wouldn't find the helmet after that. Mom looked everywhere for it. She figured that it had probably ended up in Gran's attic, and she kept meaning to look for it. But by then, I had gotten used to not wearing it. I have pictures of me in all of my Halloween costumes. My first Halloween, I was a pumpkin. My second, I was Tigger. My third, I was Peter Pan. My dad dressed up as Captain Hook. My fourth, I was Captain Hook, and my dad dressed up as Peter Pan. My fifth, I was an astronaut. My sixth, I was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and my seventh, I was a clone trooper. My eighth, I was Darth Vader, and my ninth, I was the Bleeding Scream, the one that has the fake blood oozing out over the skull mask. This year, I was going to be Boba Fett. Not Boba Fett, the kid in Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, but Boba Fett, the man from Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Mom searched everywhere for the costume but couldn't find one in my size, so she bought me Jango Fett costume. And since Jango was Bubba's dad and wore the same armor, and then painted the armor green, she did some other stuff to it to make it look worn too. Anyway, it looked totally cool. Mom's good at costumes. In homeroom, we all talked about what we were going to be for Halloween. Charlotte was going to be Hermione from Harry Potter. Jack was going to be a Wolfman. I heard that Julian was going as Jango Fett, which was a weird coincidence. I don't think he liked hearing that I was going as Boba Fett. On the morning of Halloween, Via had this big crying meltdown about something, and Via has always been so calm and cool, but this year she had a couple of these kind of fits. And Dad was late for work and was like, "Via, let's go, let's go." And usually Dad is super patient about things, but not when it comes to him being late for work. And his yelling just stressed out Via even more, and she started crying louder. So Mom told Dad to take me to school, and that's the deal with Via. Then Mom kissed me goodbye quickly before I even put on my costume and disappeared into Via's room. "Augie, let's go now," said Dad. "I have a meeting and I can't be late." "I haven't put on my costume yet." "So put it on already. 5 minutes, I'll meet you outside." I rushed into my room and started to put on the Boba Fett costume, but all of a sudden, I didn't feel like wearing it. I'm not sure why, maybe because it had all these belts that needed to be tightened and I needed someone's help to put it on, or maybe it was because it still smelled like a little paint. All I knew is that it was a lot of work to put the costume on, and Dad was waiting and would get super impatient if I made him late. So at the last minute, I threw on the Bleeding Scream costume from last year, and it was such an easy costume, just a long black robe and a big white mask. I yelled goodbye from the door on my way out, but Mom didn't hear me. "I thought you were going as Jango Fett," said Dad when I got outside. "Boba Fett." "Whatever," Dad said. "This is a better costume anyway." Yeah, it's cool, I answered. I'm going to keep going. The bleeding scream. Walking through the halls that morning on my way to the lockers was, I have to say, absolutely awesome. Everything was different now. I was different. Where I usually walked with my head down, tried to avoid being seen, today I walked with my head up, looking around. I wanted to be seen. One kid wearing the same exact costume as mine, long white skull face, oozing fake blood, high-fived me as we passed each other on the stairs. I have no idea who he was, and he had no idea who I was, and I wondered for a second if he would have ever done that if he'd known it was me under the mask. I was starting to think this was going to go down as one of the most awesome days in history of my life. But then I got to homeroom. The first costume I saw as I walked inside the door was Darth Sidious. I had one of those rubber masks that are so realistic with a big black hood over the head and long black robe, and I knew right away it was Julian, of course. He must have changed his costume at the last minute because he thought I was coming as Jango Fett. He was talking to two mummies who must have been Miles and Henry, and they were all kind of looking at the door like they were waiting for someone to come through it. And I knew it wasn't a bleeding scream they were looking for. It was a Boba Fett. I was going to go sit down at my desk as usual, but for some reason, and I don't know why, I found myself walking over to a desk near them, and I could hear them talking. One of the mummies was saying, "It really does look like him." "Like this part especially," answered Julian's voice, and he put his finger on the cheeks and eyes of the Darth Sidious mask. "Actually," said the mummy, "what he really looks like is one of those shrunken heads. Have you seen those? He looks exactly like that. I think he looks like an orc." "Oh, yeah. If I looked like that," said Julian, kind of laughing, "I swear to God, I'd put a hood over my face every day." "I've thought about this a lot," said the second mummy, sounding serious, "and I really think if I looked like him, seriously, I think I'd hurt myself." "You would not," answered Darth Sidious. "Yeah, for real," insisted the same mummy. "I can't imagine looking in the mirror every day and seeing myself like that. It would be too awful. And getting stared at all the time." "Then why do you hang out with him so much?" asked Darth Sidious. "I don't know," answered the mummy. "Tushman asked me to hang out with him at the beginning of the year, and he must have told all the teachers to put us next to each other in all our classes or something." The mummy shrugged. I knew the shrug. Of course, I knew the voice. I knew I wanted to run out of the class right then and there. But I stood where I was and listened to Jack Will finish what he was saying. I mean, the thing is, he always follows me around. What am I supposed to do? "Just ditch him," said Julian. I don't know what Jack answered because I walked out of the class without anyone knowing I had been there. My face felt like it was on fire while I walked back down the stairs. I was sweating under my costume and I started crying. I couldn't keep it from happening. The tears were so thick in my eyes I could barely see, but I couldn't wipe them through the mask as I walked. I was looking for a little tiny spot to disappear into, and I wanted a hole I could fall inside of, a little black hole that would eat me up. Two more pages and we'll stop. And this will be the end of part 1. Rat Boy, Freak, Monster, Freddy Krueger, E.T., Gross Out, Lizard Face Mutant. I know the names they call me. I've been in enough playgrounds to know kids can be mean. I know. I ended up in the second floor bathroom. No one was there because first period had started and everyone was in class. I locked the door to my stall and took off my mask and just cried for I don't know how long. Then I went to the nurse's office and told her I had a stomachache, which was true because I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. Nurse Molly called my mom and had me lie down on the sofa next to her desk. 15 minutes later, Mom was at the door. "Sweetness," she said, coming over to hug me. "Hi," I mumbled, and I didn't want her to ask anything until afterwards. "You have a stomachache?" she asked, automatically putting her hand on my forehead to check my temperature. "He said he feels like throwing up," said Nurse Molly, looking at me with very nice eyes. "And I have a headache," I whispered. "I wonder if there's something you ate," said Mom, looking worried. "There's a stomach bug going around," said Nurse Molly. "Oh, geez," said Mom, her eyebrows going up as she shook her head. She helped me to my feet. "Should I call a taxi or are you okay walking home?" "I can walk." "What a brave kid," said Nurse Molly, patting me on the back as she walked us to the door. "If he starts throwing up or runs a temperature, you should call the doctor." "Absolutely," said Mom, shaking Nurse Molly's hand. "Thank you so much for taking care of him." "My pleasure," answered Nurse Molly, putting her hand under my chin and tilting my face up. "You take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded and mumbled thank you. Mom and I hug-walked the whole way home. I didn't tell her anything about what had happened, and later when she asked me if I felt well enough to go trick-or-treating after school, I said no. This worried her since she knew how much I usually loved trick-or-treating. I heard her say to Dad on the phone, "He doesn't even have the energy to go trick-or-treating." "No, no fever at all." "Well, I will if he doesn't feel better by tomorrow." I know, poor thing. Imagine his missing Halloween. I got out of going to school the next day, too, which was Friday, so I had the whole weekend to think about everything. I was pretty sure I would never go back to school again. And that is where we're going to end. So we've read Part 1 of Wonder by R.J. Palacio, the first 80 pages. Monday, I will continue, so I'll do Monday morning announcements, and then later in the day, I'll start with Part 2. Part 2 is called Via. Part 1 was called August. So maybe we'll get a little introduction to Augie's sister Via. The one thing I want to say before we sign off online, boys and girls, this is the first time I'm reading this book with you. So I get caught up on my words sometimes, or I lose my spot, and that happens, and we keep going. But sometimes I get caught in emotion. I can't imagine having to go through what Augie went through. And I was in school and a kid once too, and there were mean kids, and that does happen. Just think as we listen to the story, what kind of kid, what kind of child, what kind of person, what kind of human being you want to be. Think about those precepts that his teacher, I think it was Mr. Brown, was talking about, and think about how we treat one another. And think about if you were in Augie's shoes, how you would feel. Boys and girls, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I know there's still no school next week, but I will continue to log on Facebook Live in the morning to do our announcements. I'll continue our story until we're at the end. I will continue to do Snuggle Up Sundays on Sunday evening, so if you want to catch a story then, I will be there. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Bye, everyone.